Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm obviously Governor Kotek. This is Dan McMillan.
Good morning.
CEO and President of the Standard. Very happy to be here. We've just had our first meeting of the Portland Central City Task Force, and we're happy to take questions. Julia.
Yes. Julia Shumway with Capital Chronicle. Why are these meetings happening behind closed doors?
This is our first meeting. And while there's a full task force, there will also be committees. I think what's really important is to hear all perspectives and you have all conversations put out on the table to move us forward and solve problems that are challenging this central city. And we are offering ourselves as communicators of those meetings because we want to make sure people can have the conversations in a way that will frank, confidential conversations. But the information that will come out will definitely be made public. It's not like we're hiding what the conversations result in and the recommendations and the action plans. So that will be very public as we go forward, and we're not going to wait till the very last meeting. You will see information as we go.
So, Governor, is that the ultimate outcome you see from this as an action plan, set of recommendations? Like, how is this going to come forward? 3 meetings kind of feels like a small amount of meetings to put forward an entire action plan to save a city. But what are the deliverables you're envisioning?
It's a great question. First of all, Dan and I don't like task forces, per se. This is not just a big conversation where people just get to vent and study something. This is an opportunity for folks across the city of Portland to come together with action steps in 5 main areas that will then be presented at the Oregon Business Summit in December. So it's a very tight timeline. The bulk of the work will be done in the 5 separate committees coming to the task force with further elaboration and conversation at the Business Summit in December. There's a sense of urgency in this group. We are here to make progress, build on good things that are happening, and be very clear that at this moment, we can't just talk about things, we have to do things and have very specific steps to make progress.
Yeah, I would underline the bias for action that the governor just talked about, really important. And the candor of the conversation we just had with that group is frankly inspiring to me. So
what was discussed in today's meeting? What was brought to the table?
Well, clearly first meeting, so understanding the structure of the task force, explaining the timeline. We had a presentation from Echo Northwest of some of the data that's out there, how Portland compares to other similar cities in terms of growth, in terms of income, in terms of where we are compared to where we were before the pandemic. The types of challenges facing Portland are similar in other large cities, particularly cities like ours, which has been very focused on a downtown core that's very office-centric. The pandemic has changed that norm, and so we're trying to figure out what does that mean for us going forward. We also have some other issues that are different from other places. The level of unsheltered homelessness, for example, is significant in Portland and how that's impacting us. So we had a data conversations, and what, Dan, you want to add to that?
yeah, there's a lot of data, and really having a good foundation to make good decisions and really understand the situation that we're in is critical, and that's where we wanted to start. And then we also covered just the structure of how we're going to be set up so we can get work done. All the work will happen in the committees. And then the 3 meetings you mentioned earlier is really just bringing that committee information up to the larger task force.
Brandon, with
5 main areas of focus, what are they?
The value proposition for the central city. And so just to be clear, the entire city is important to everybody who was in that room. The focus on the central city core as an economic hub, a cultural hub is the focus of the group. So we're talking about the vision of the economic prosperity going forward for the central city. There's community livability, very much focused on trash and graffiti and kind of how the city looks and feels. Where there's a committee on community safety. There are safety issues in the central city that will be addressed there. There is a committee on unsheltered homelessness. More taking everything that's been going on and clarifying it for the folks on the task force to make sure we're doing all the right things. And then one on tax and services, making sure that the taxes that are being paid here, are we staying competitive with our tax structure, and are those taxes actually resulting in the services and outcomes that we need.
One of the data points that Portland really sticks out with is the vacancy rate that doesn't show any sign of slowing down for offices. Now, Mr. McMillan, you told the Oregonian that you don't think you could get more workers in downtown more often. So where is Portland's path forward with the future of having people in the central city?
Yeah, Portland is very office-centric in terms of its downtown buildings. A lot of other cities have different mix in terms of the type and the nature of the buildings that are there. And I do see traffic returning, but it's sort of leveled off in the last year in terms of office, and that's not just the standard, but lots of employers in the downtown area. As a company, we continue to bring people to Portland for conferences, for meetings. Many of our employees are back in the office, just not on a standard schedule, small s. And that work is going to go, and we expect that to continue and increase over time. And I suspect that some of the other businesses in the central core will be in the same path, assuming that we can get some of this work done through the committees.
And we'd be happy to share some of the data that's coming from Echo Northwest so you can see how we are situated. One interesting tidbit was when people are downtown, right? It's more Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Monday and Friday feels different. One of the things I think we're going to end up wrestling with is how do you increase that presence through the week, right? And every city is dealing with that, but that doesn't mean we as Portlanders can't figure it out and come up with a plan.
But how are you guys enticing new businesses to come to downtown, like restaurants? I hear from a lot of business owners, and not only do they have to deal with crime and increasing insurance rates, but they're also having to deal with high taxes as well, and it's driving just the smaller businesses out of the downtown core. So what are you guys doing to try to entice that?
Well, one of the things I think, first of all, I want to say to the small businesses who have stayed in downtown Portland, in the central city, over the last 3 years, we appreciate them and we want to support them. We have small business leaders on the task force who are dealing with this every day. Some of their issues are more about what's happening on the streets, foot traffic down to their businesses. I'm sure taxes might be an issue, but it's more about how do we bring people into the central city to shop and to eat and be there. So there will be a big emphasis on the cultural nature of downtown, making sure that that's a draw for people to come here. Our numbers are not where they should be compared to other cities, and we need to work on that.
Governor, Mayor Wheeler has been pretty clear, I think, about what he would like to see come out of this. I don't know if he delivered you all the thing he's given to some press, but there's some very dramatic proposals in there, including 100 state troopers, a state police outpost downtown, a bunch more city funding. Do you have a take on those proposals at this point? I think OSP is pretty dramatic.
Well, one thing to know is Mayor Wheeler did make opening comments. He was their first speaker this morning. And he did a good overview of what has been working, what is in process right now to take on some of these challenges. I am aware of his set of recommendations. One of the things that we need to remember is no one government, whether it's the city of Portland, Multnomah County, or the state, or even a governor or a mayor, is going to solve all the challenges facing downtown Portland. So that list coming from the city of Portland proper, the government, is certainly going to get added into the mix. I am open to making sure we push as hard as we can and bring that urgency to the state as well as the city and county. But this isn't just a public enterprise. This is public and private. That's why we're here. If it were just up to government, we are not going to be successful. We need every Oregonian, every Portlander getting behind, being part of the solution so we can get ahead of this. So it's one set of recommendations. There are going to be others, and our goal is to put them all together and say, here are the 3 to 5 things we can do now to make progress.
Are you ruling anything out at this point, though?
I never rule anything out.
I would add, too, that the work will be done in the committees. And our intent is for these to be collaborative with the work that's already going on, not in competition, but coming alongside and helping. And I think that's really important to understand.
Does the $65 million that the county is currently sitting on that's meant for homeless services, does that play a role in this task force at all?
Well, we will have a committee that's focused on solving the unsheltered homelessness challenges for the downtown core. And we will have folks from the county involved in that. I think it's really important not to recreate a new committee. There is a lot going on. There's already conversations at the county about the $65 million. So we want to bring it into the conversation, get additional feedback. The bottom line is make progress on the things that are currently in the pipeline. for sure.
I'm Jeremiah. I'm here with Street Roots. It's my first time here.
Hello, Jeremiah. Welcome.
Some of the more resilient organizations in the last few years have been homeless service providers in the downtown area. So I'm kind of curious how, what the intention is and the attention to integrating service providers into some of the plans for economics in downtown Portland.
We want to hear from service providers and all residents of the central city. The central city has to be a place that works for everyone. And I want to thank the service delivery providers who have been through the last 3 years and are still standing. So their perspective on how best to serve individuals who are living downtown is a key part of our discussion.
Is anyone in the meeting today?
From Street Roots?
From like any homeless service provider?
We have some representation, for example, from Central City Concerns. We have some other nonprofits. But the committees will allow for more people to get involved, and we haven't announced that yet. But so we have close to 40 people on the task force. I think we're probably looking at another 20 people in addition in each committee. So there will be a lot of more opportunity to getting that input.
A number of service providers in that category have reached out to me personally to offer their help, so we'll encourage their involvement.
That's one thing we want to emphasize. When we announced this 2 weeks ago, everyone's like, how can we be helpful? It wasn't, this is going wrong or that's going wrong. It's like, how can we be helpful? This task force is trying to just make the most of that energy and interest to make progress.
I understand the task force is about Central City, but Portland's a very large city. What's your message to residents who do not come down to Central City, who do not live in Central City, and all this effort is being paid to this area when people outside Central City are seeing the same exact thing?
I do think that if we make progress on the issues that are facing the Central City core, they will have benefit for the whole city. As governor, I've been traveling, visiting a lot of counties. We'll be at 26 counties by Labor Day. Everyone cares about what's happening in Portland. They know that the success of Portland is good for the entire economy of the state. It is our entry point for tourists. That is a place where it's our cultural hubs. So we believe that this focus allows us to make progress, and it's going to benefit the entire metro area, the entire city, as well as the entire state.
I understand downtowns across the country are changing, they're evolving post-pandemic. So what is your vision for downtown? It sounds like office spaces, businesses probably won't come back and fill those offices. So I just want to hear what you guys envision Portland's downtown to look like 5 years down the road.
You know, we think about the central city specifically, and you mentioned office, but we see a different mixed-use sort of mix in the future where you have a vibrant mix of the arts, the services, some office, as well as residential. I think that will take some time to change, but we do see this whole downtown core mix changing over time, and I think that's part of the vision and the value proposition that that committee is going to take on.
And we hear from businesses that say that they don't really have the time for a committee to wait 4 months or even a state legislature till next spring. They don't know if they could survive that long. So what are immediate steps that this task force or you all can take to help reverse the trend of downtown to help these businesses survive?
Well, what I would say is stay tuned. This isn't a year-long process. I was very clear when I took on this task with Dan that we're going to have an action plan by December, and there will be things that we can do even before that is fully formalized. This isn't about the legislative session, and frankly, it's not completely about resources. Let's look at the money we have. Can we use it differently? Can we do things differently right now to improve things? Because when you see progress, when you see success, I think you get more progress, more success. And so we're very focused on making things happen over the next couple months, but by December saying this is what we're going to do, and we need everybody to get on board.
And what are you doing to keep these conversations and in the task force meetings and the subcommittee meetings focused on action as opposed to devolving into venting?
Well, I want to thank the larger business community. These committees will be staffed. We have access to data. We're trying to support the committees to do their work because everyone is busy. So when they are meeting, we're going to help them be productive and then have feedback loop of what they need. Like out of this meeting, people are like, I'd love to have this data point or that data point. So we're trying to get more information so each committee can be successful in an efficient, effective manner.
Even the original tenor of the conversation today was very solution-focused and forward-looking. And so I think we really set the tone this morning for what's going to be the plan going forward, what things can we do immediately, where's the sort of low-hanging fruit in terms of what's going on, and what we'll be doing in the future, and how do we line that up and execute on it.
What sort of things can you do immediately?
Well, I would just say stay tuned, just the first meeting, but we're hoping to have updates as we go along and not just wait, 4 months from now. So we'll try to figure out that communication to all of you to give you updates as we move forward. Here's what I know. I think Oregonians and Portlanders are amazing, right? They love their state. They love their city. They are all willing. The folks who are here want to stay here, and they want it to work. And we're just providing an opportunity to focus all that energy and interest to get some very specific action steps.
I have time for 2 more questions.
Is there any concern that people having to go back to the office downtown, that you're going to lose workers because they don't want to go back into that office setting? I mean, working from home has been working well for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think every business, it's a different equation. It's really difficult to paint that brush broadly. Some businesses, that would be the case. Some businesses have really figured out when do we need to be together to collaborate and communicate, what functions actually do better from a remote environment, and each business has to make that decision. I think the leaders of that business have to decide whether they're going to have turnover based on those in-office requirements, and you see some of that going on around the country today.
And all employers across the state are dealing with that. The state of Oregon is dealing with that. We're a major, 40,000 plus employees. How do the world change with the pandemic? Some things can be done virtually, some are hybrid. I think what we should keep in mind too is the way the Central City was first developed, it's very office heavy, with transit really focused on bringing people into the city. We have to rethink how we've been doing things because the world changed with the pandemic. Portland is going to change with it, and we just need to figure out what those strategies are. And I think it's going to mean a lot more people living downtown, not just working downtown.
And then what will it take to change downtown Portland's image to the rest of the country? It'll take Portlanders and Oregonians to work together, but nationally, what is it going to take to say, hey, downtown Portland's different than what you saw in the news in 2020?
I think, and the governor probably has something to add to this, but steady progress. One of the things we talked about this morning was communicating quick wins and making sure that we are documenting and communicating the progress that's been made coming out of the task force very clearly so that people can see the work that's going on, literally.
Yeah, and we're going to have metrics. We want to see more foot traffic. We want to see fewer overdoses. I mean, things that we can quantify and show that progress.
When should we expect updates of what was discussed today?
I can't answer that right now, but we will get back to everyone and give you a sense of that. Our goal is to be the chief communicators, so you can expect media avails after every main task force meeting, but we'll also provide information as we go. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.